Back into Duane Elgin Choosing Earth. I'm in the fourth part, which is called Uplifts for a Transforming Future. And I'm in the second section of that, which is called Choosing Consciousness. And to start that section, we get a quote from Jung, which reads, "In the history of the collective, as in the history of the individual, everything depends on the development of consciousness." Elgin states, "Ancient wisdom suggests there are three miracles in life. First, that anything exists at all. Second, that living things exist. And third, that living things know they exist. The third miracle is the capacity for self-reflective consciousness and is fundamental to our nature as humans. Our scientific name is Homo sapiens sapiens. We're not only sapient, beings with the ability to know, we're beings who can know that we know and can watch or witness ourselves as we move through our daily lives. We see that we're not running on automatic, not following habitual and pre-programmed ways of living, that we have freedom of choice. Consciousness and freedom are intimate partners in the dance of evolution. Reflective consciousness is a powerful aid for uplift and movement through this time of initiation for our species. The first step in uplift and evolution is simply to see what is, to become an impartial observer or witness of our own experience. Honest reflection and non-judgmental witnessing are fundamental to uplifting our lives. Through paying attention to our lives in the mirror of consciousness, we can make friends with ourselves and become greater and come to greater self-possession. The capacity for honest self-reflection helps to cut through the surface chatter of our lives and discover the direct experience of our existence. Peter de Zilbern writes about the relationship of consciousness and aliveness. He describes aliveness as a direct experience instead of something we think about. He asks us to imagine a wine tasting party where the tasting is the purpose. So it is with life. We're here to taste what it means to be alive, to directly experience and live our aliveness. De Zilbern writes, "Life is nothing if it's not alive." In the simplicity of silence, we can taste aliveness. Our aliveness is not a thought, but a living presence. Nor is aliveness a thought about aliveness. It's the direct experience of aliveness itself. Quote, "You are conscious and alive. The words and thoughts are what you're conscious of. Words and thoughts by themselves are never conscious. Only you are." So that's what you really are, this pure consciousness, not unconscious words and thoughts about it. Huge difference. Thinking is a changing process. Aliveness is a changeless presence. To witness or watch ourselves moving through life is not a mechanical process, but a living experience where we consciously taste our lives and make friends with ourselves, including those moments of doubt, anger, fear, and desire we may prefer to ignore. An observer self or witnessing self gives us the ability to stand back from complete identification with bodily-based desires, emotions, and thoughts. With the trustworthy mirror of reflective consciousness, we can see ourselves as if from a distance. From this perspective, we see that while our bodily experience is one part of ourselves, we're more than our body's sensations, pleasures, and pains. We also see that while emotional experience is one part of us, we're more than our experience of anger, happiness, and sorrow. By bringing reflective consciousness into our lives, we experience more spaciousness and freedom. We no longer identify exclusively with sensations, emotions, and our inner stream of mental dialogue. The detachment and perspective provided by reflective knowing supports the reconciliation needed for moving through this time of great transition. When present with reflective consciousness, we no longer operate largely on automatic. Expanding reflexive awareness to a social scale, seeing ourselves in the mirror of mass media, changes everything. Recognizing that we live in a shared ecology of consciousness weaves the human family into a mutually appreciative whole, while simultaneously honoring our differences. Reflective consciousness is vital for coping with intense global stresses and challenges. We have entered a perfect storm of intertwined and critical problems that require an unprecedented level of global reflection and reconciliation inspired by a shared vision of a sustainable future. Here's how eminent scientist Carl Sagan described our situation when testifying before Congress in 1985 on how the greenhouse effect will change the global climate system. Quote, "What is essential for this problem is a global consciousness, a view that transcends our exclusive identifications with generational and political groupings into which by accident we've been born. The solution to these problems requires a perspective that embraces the planet and the future because we are all in this greenhouse together. Importantly, the awakening of consciousness does not end with mindfulness or reflective attention. Beyond reflective consciousness and the polarity of watcher and watched, or observer and observed, we can evolve to unitive consciousness. If we persevere with sustained mindfulness, the distance between observer and observed gradually diminishes until we become a single integrated flow of experience. As the knower and that which is known converge and become one in experience, we realize we're inseparable from whatever we observe. Because the universe is a profoundly unified whole, we simply allow our conscious knowing to coincide with what is known. We let go of objectifying reality as something to be witnessed out there and realize that reality can be directly experienced in here. Reality can be directly experienced in here. We can move beyond reflecting on life and move into the experience of coinciding with life, or simply being life. A new social atmosphere will emerge in a culture of compassionate consciousness. No matter where people are in the world, we will increasingly know we are among relatives. Our sense of identity will expand, and we'll regard everyone as compassionate citizens of the cosmos, beings immersed in the depths of a living universe, who feel a deep kinship with all life. The word passion means to suffer, and the word compassion literally means to suffer with. If we watch people move through painful transition, we can become one with the experience of suffering and will naturally work to alleviate that suffering. Swimming in the larger ocean of life, we know intuitively that if the earth is suffering, we all bathe in an ocean of subtle suffering. We recognize that our experience of life is permeable and that we share in whatever measure of happiness or sorrow is created for the whole. As the push of outer necessity meets the pull of untapped inner capacity, humanity awakens its capacity for conscious reflection and knowing. We recognize that if we're distracted and in denial and overlook the urgency and importance of the great transition now underway, we will miss a unique, never to be repeated evolutionary opportunity. Each generation makes sacrifices for the next as a caretaker for the future. The current generation is being pushed by a wounded Earth and pulled by a welcoming universe to make an unprecedented gift to humanity's future. Awakening together with equanimity and maturity to consciously realize our biocosmic potential and purpose of learning to live in a living universe. Witnessing or reflective consciousness moves from the status of a spiritual luxury for the few in an earlier fragmented world to that of a social necessity for the many in our modern interdependent world. The quality of our personal and social attention is the most precious resource and gift that we can offer to life. All wisdom takes on new meaning. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Our level of social vigilance is fundamental to the functioning of a free society. If we don't pay attention while decisions of evolutionary importance are being made, then we effectively forfeit our future. Now is the time to be wide awake, both personally and collectively. To be free from needless government intrusion, individuals and communities must develop their capacity to be consciously self-regulating at a pace at least equal to that at which the social order grows more complex, interdependent, and vulnerable. Bringing reflective consciousness into our wired world enables us to objectively witness, for example, the deep wounds of racism, poverty, intolerance, discrimination. Observing consciousness enables us to stand back and experience our common humanity from a dispassionate perspective, providing invisible glue to bond the human family into a workable community. Developing a more conscious, reflective society allows many other enabling capacity to emerge, including, and then he goes into 6 different points, the first of which is self-determination. One of the most basic expressions of a maturing consciousness is enhanced capacity for self-determination. A conscious society is able to look at its options as well as observe itself in the process of choosing. We're able to observe our collective self from the outside, much as one culture or nation can view another. A reflective society does not blindly trust a particular ideology, leader, or political party. Instead, it regularly reorients itself by looking beneath slogans and vague goals to choose a preferred path to the future. That was self-determination. He now talks about error embracing. Quote, a more conscious society recognizes that social learning inevitably involves making mistakes. Therefore, errors are not automatically regarded as bad. Instead, they're accepted as important feedback in the process of learning. Equanimity. More conscious society tends to be objective and react calmly to the stressful pushes and pulls of trends and events. It demonstrates an evenness, level-headedness, and confidence unmoved from its center by the passions of the moment. 3 more. Inclusive. The more conscious society continually searches for synergy as different ethnic groups, geographic regions, and ideological perspectives are actively invited into a search for higher common ground. Anticipatory. In viewing the world more objectively from a larger perspective, a reflective society tends to consciously consider alternative pathways into the future. Instead of waiting passively for crises to force action, we pay greater attention and respond to danger signals. And creative. A conscious society is not locked into habitual patterns of thinking and behaving. Rather than respond with pre-programmed solutions, it explores options with a fresh and flexible frame of mind. These qualities of an awakening reflective consciousness bring powerful uplift for moving through our time of collective initiation. That being the second part in the 4th chapter of Duane Elgin's Choosing Earth, entitled Choosing Consciousness.